The slap echoed through the training hall like a gunshot, sharp, humiliating, and brutally careless. Recruits froze mid-rep, weights hovered mid-air, and conversations died instantly. Everyone turned toward the commotion. A tall male trainee stood there, face twisted in mock confidence, knuckles still raised. In front of him, the weak girl he'd just hit staggered only half a step. Her cheek reddened, but her eyes didn't even blink. She slowly lifted her head, and that's when the first ripple of unease spread. Her stare wasn't frightened, offended, or surprised. It was calculating, controlled, silent, the kind of look only someone who has faced far worse than a trainee's slap could ever give. She didn't speak. She didn't even raise her hands. The general, observing from the upper railing, leaned forward with irritation. "What's going on down there?" he barked, but his voice faltered mid-sentence as the girl finally straightened her posture. The trainee smirked, mistaking her stillness for fear. "Didn't think I'd actually hit you, huh? Should have stayed in the beginner class, sweetheart." The hall tensed. No one dared move. Even the loudest troublemakers watched, suddenly aware that something was very wrong with the way she was breathing, measured, slow, like a predator deciding whether to pounce. She spoke at last. "You shouldn't have done that." No threat, no anger, just a fact. The trainee scoffed. "Or what?" He grabbed her shoulder to shove her again. What happened next took 5 seconds. Second 1. She hooked his wrist, pivoted sharply, and drove her elbow into the soft point between his ribs. The sound he made wasn't a grunt, it was air collapsing out of lungs. Second 2. She swept his leg before he could blink. He hit the ground hard, spine cracking against the mat. Second 3. Her knee pinned his arm. A twist, precise, technical, followed by the distant pop of a joint reaching its limit. Second 4. He screamed. The entire hall jolted. The general's expression changed from mild irritation to outright shock. Second 5. She released him just before the arm fully dislocated. He curled into himself, gasping, begging, "Stop. Please, please, help." The general rushed down the stairs, boots slamming, authority evaporating with each step. "What the hell did you just do to him?" he demanded, but his voice cracked with uncertainty. She stood calmly, hands behind her back, breathing steady as if she'd just finished adjusting her hair. "He hit me," she said plainly. I responded. The general crouched beside the trainee. "Can you move? Can you breathe?" The young man only whimpered. Recruits whispered among themselves. "Who is she? She moved like a ghost. No way she's just a recruit." Finally, the general turned back to her. "Identify yourself, now." She snapped a perfect salute. "Lieutenant Commander Evelyn Hart, transferred this morning. Special warfare." The general's face went pale. Because everyone in that room knew. Special warfare didn't train with recruits. Special warfare trained the people who trained recruits. And he had just watched one of his own men hit a woman capable of neutralizing entire teams. The training hall stayed frozen long after the trainee stopped screaming. No one dared breathe too loudly, as if any wrong sound might set off the woman who had just dismantled a man twice her size without raising her voice. Lieutenant Commander Evelyn Hart stood motionless, expression unreadable, posture crisp and steady. The general straightened up slowly, brushing dust off his knees. His authority, once unquestioned, felt strangely hollow in her presence. "Hart," he said, regaining his tone, "you were supposed to report to my office before joining the training cycle." "Yes, sir," she replied, calmly, "but your trainee initiated contact." I adjusted accordingly. The simplicity of her words only deepened the silence. The general cleared his throat. "Medical," he barked. Corman rushed in with a stretcher, lifting the whimpering trainee carefully. His arm trembled uncontrollably, and he avoided looking anywhere near Hart. She didn't even glance at him as they carried him away. Instead, she addressed the general again. "Sir, permission to speak freely." He hesitated, before nodding. "Your trainees lack discipline," she said. "If a strike like his landed in an uncontrolled environment, and no one intervened, your entire platoon is compromised. Respect, situational awareness, chain of command, none were present." The general stiffened. She hadn't raised her voice, but every recruit felt the sting of her assessment. "You think you can just walk in here and tell me how to run my command?" he challenged. She didn't blink. "Sir, you requested special warfare oversight for this camp. I'm the oversight." Gasps erupted across the hall. A few recruits looked down immediately, others straightened their backs. The general's face twitched with the realization that was sinking in. She outranked him in authority for this training operation. He exhaled slowly. Fine, he muttered. Let's see what you've got. She stepped forward, deliberate, composed, almost effortless, toward the center of the training mat. Recruits, she called out. Front and center. None hesitated. 60 men and women scrambled into formation, boots pounding. First lesson, she said, walking down the line. Strength means nothing without control. You want to survive real combat? Learn to assess before you act. She stopped beside a towering recruit with arms like tree trunks. You, she said, attack me. He swallowed. Ma'am, that was an order. He lunged. For a moment, it looked like he might succeed. He was huge, fast, and well-trained. But in a fluid motion that felt almost unreal, she pivoted, redirected his momentum, and sent him crashing onto his back. He wheezed, eyes watering. She didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She simply stepped over him and addressed the others. That was controlled force. No broken bones, no unnecessary damage. Learn the difference. The general watched her, not with anger anymore, but with something closer to reluctant respect. Then she turned to him. With your permission, sir, she said, I'd like to correct the discipline issue. He nodded slowly. Do what you have to do, Lieutenant Commander. Her expression sharpened with purpose. Recruits, she called, welcome to real training. And for the first time that day, every single person, general included, stood at full attention.